So a couple things. I think for those that are watching, I think there's a couple. It's in his bio there, but important for folks to know that Erik is a certified financial planner. I think there are a lot of CFPs now that are starting to understand the crypto ecosystem in depth. You would be hard pressed to find someone outside of Erik that is probably going deeper than he has. The second thing is, I think what we've tried to do together and what we've tried to do as a firm is try to speak advisor through the lens of crypto. Everything we try to do is make it so that advisors understand in some capacity what this means for their actual practice, what it means for practice management, for client engagement, and just the future of the business. Last thing, I think what we hope to accomplish is for advisors to understand this is a world that we live in 24/7, 365. Like we never leave it. If you look at our text threads, if you look at it, everything is crypto all the time. This is all we do and all we obsess over. It's a passion and it's our goal to be the gateway between the future and the present. So speaking of that, just saying that we are a resource. The goal is to be that trusted center of influence for advisors where let us handle that, right? You could go do whatever it is that you want to do, give it to the crypto hippies and move on with your life. So I think with that, the first thing I will say is this. It's very important that there's a book called Crypto Assets. And I think it's very important that financial advisors get that book and read it because it'll give you a good background and history on how crypto came to be. Everything that has come after Bitcoin has somehow been a result of Bitcoin, Ethereum included. Before handing it off to Erik, I think this is a key point. A lot of people think that Ethereum is the second oldest crypto. It is not. That is Litecoin. It is not Ethereum. Ethereum came later. But those two mainly are the ones with the biggest brands, the most folks working on them, and the two that we've gotten some clarity on for financial advisors from the SEC. So with that, I just think it sets the ground floor where everything that we talk about and everything that advisors probably should be focused on should be focused around these two. But getting into Ethereum, I'll let you take it from there, and I could fill in some blanks as needed.
Yeah, definitely. No, appreciate the intro. And that's exactly right. We want to operate in this space over on the crypto side of things. So not everyone has to become a crypto expert. Come to us. We're more than happy to chat with anyone about whether it be at the asset level, which we'll get into the difference between Ethereum, what we would actually call Ether as the asset versus Ethereum, the blockchain. So similar to Bitcoin, you have both Bitcoin, the blockchain, and Bitcoin, the asset. And it's important to distinguish those two. Same thing goes for Ethereum. You have Ethereum, the blockchain, and you have Ether, which is the asset, the native asset of that blockchain. So that's some of the very high level, just thinking about how do we separate the technology versus investing in the asset itself. Now, in my view, Tyrone, I don't think that every advisor is going to need to know how a blockchain works. I think we're going to get to the point where these systems, which we would call like a decentralized network, for example, just a network similar to the internet that's you can use, you can build on top of all around the world. And as these networks make their way into the underlying technology layer of how things are built, we don't need to know how Amazon Web Services works. We just need to know that it works. We don't need to know what technology makes up the iPhone. We just need to know that the iPhone is in our pocket and it works. So I think we're going to get to the point where it's a similar feeling in the crypto space, which we can even talk about that if we want to call it crypto. I know that's what we got the show and the crypto office hours. But I think what I'm getting at is this is just going to be an underlying piece of our everyday lives eventually, and we won't need to know how blocks are stacked, what's proof of work versus proof of stake, etc.
No, I agree. And I think that has been part of the problem here is if an advisor is recommending client purchase Amazon or Google or whatever the case may be, Meta, they're not also explaining TCP/IP and how the internet works and everything else. So I think for the purposes of this conversation, right, you mentioned proof of work versus proof of stake. That is a main difference right now between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's just be completely honest. To me, if I'm walking to a room and I'm talking to a room full of financial advisors, do I think that matters to bring up? No. But here's why it should matter to advisors, just for the purposes of comparison. There's some folks that are very concerned about the energy consumption on Bitcoin. You don't have those issues with proof of stake for Ethereum, and staking meaning just anything that you put at stake. The more you put at stake in Ethereum, meaning your Ether coins, more say you have in terms of what happens on that actual chain. This is oversimplification. But I say all that to say, if you have clients or if you run a practice that is focused on ESG or other personal things that folks may have as a part of their investment philosophy, that might be something that you want to know. Beyond that, advisors really don't care. The other thing is we have no idea who Satoshi is. I think I have an idea, but no one really knows. I kid, right? No one knows. I think it's a group of people, to be honest. But in Ethereum, you can point directly at the co-founders of Ethereum, right? And I think Jay has a question later around some of that. So that is also a big difference. Those folks have a lot of sway. Those folks have a lot of power. They try to remove some of that power by giving the space away and so on and so forth. You can get out how Ethereum is set up. But I think those are two really big distinctions right now that advisors should be concerned about. One may have more influence than the other, but I think those are two core differences right off the bat that I think advisors should care about and know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to talk about, so to keep it on this Bitcoin versus Ethereum, I think there's one key piece that advisors really do need to understand, and that's what makes up that, what compares them, what makes them similar. And that would be the ability to self-custody assets on the blockchain. So this gets us into the debate of, does it make more sense to self-custody? Should I be holding it at a qualified exchange? Should I be holding it through an ETF? If I'm going to invest in crypto, any crypto, which of those three options am I going to take? And I think what we've seen historically is most retail investors stop at step 2. Most advisors haven't gone into any of this yet. But with that said, they're going to have those three options. They're either going to be able to say, we think that you should hold this through an ETF. We think it's the safest route. We think that it makes sense alongside your tradition in your brokerage account. I don't agree, but I'll give you the reasons. But then you could say, go do it on your own, which I think is the path that a lot of advisors have taken, where a client opens up an account at Coinbase, buys and sells crypto assets there. What is most important to understand here is that third step of going from Coinbase into a self-custodial wallet is becoming much easier. The user interface with opening a self-custodial wallet, not even needing to know that you're necessarily using a self-custodial wallet, not needing to write down your 12 words for a seed phrase, and being able to custody those assets while, most importantly, since we're talking about Ethereum, being able to earn yield on those assets by staking them, which is currently about 3 to 4%. Those are things that are not going to be possible, at least probably not at the beginning, with an ETH spot ETF, or just telling them, hey, go buy ETH on Coinbase's exchange. So I think those are some key points that every advisor should know about the differences and the similarities between Bitcoin and ETH, and then how you get exposure to ETH.
Yep. And I think there is a digital divide here, right? And I think that is the difference between why advisors are going to clamor for a Bitcoin ETF. They just want to hold it. But if you start talking about ETH, I think, again, I think an ETF is an absolute farce and it's a money grab. But I think there's only one thing worse than holding Bitcoin in the ETF is holding Ethereum in the ETF because of all the things that you can do on the Ethereum blockchain. So for the advisors out there, why am I saying that? Erik is not this old, but I am old enough to remember when you used to have the phones on the wall where you had to hit the 9 and it came all the way back, rotary phone, and you had to dial. And think about that as Bitcoin, right? It's just
Never
there.
used one of those, by the way, Tyrone.
Right? Right? It's just clunky, it's slow, but I can make a call. I can call anybody in the world right now. It's just there. It's always going to work. It's on the wall at grandma's house. It got fish grease on it and everything else, but I can pick up the phone and I can dial, right? Think of Ethereum as a smartphone. It's an iPhone. I can do all these really cool things. It's programmable. I can take photos or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a phone, right? Now, the interesting about that is based on generations, there are people who still actually use the phone. And those that are probably 20 to 35 never use this phone for phone calls. They use it for all of the programmable things that you can do on the phone. So Ethereum is simply a programmable, it's an iPhone blockchain. We can do all these really cool things on it. And Bitcoin is just there. It's boring on purpose to be boring, right? Now, some cool innovations happening on Bitcoin. So I think for the purposes of investing, and if this is a proper investment for clients, there's a lot there to think about. The utility, which is something that folks always talk about, the utility of Ethereum. You can do a lot of things with it. You can stake, like you said, you can get yield, right? You can build on top of Ethereum as we are to get on-chain asset management and all these really cool things, right? Decentralized ID, all these really cool things that you can do. Where can you put a PE ratio on that or try and figure out some type of earnings around it? The normal brain says no. Yes, you can, but we realize we don't have enough time here. But there's some key metrics that you can look at in Ethereum that gives you that. So there is a lot of data, which leads me to the last thing that I'll say. There is a lot of data that I think financial advisors, in terms that financial advisors should be familiar with, total value locked, right? Which is just the value of all the Ethereum that is locked within the blockchain. You mentioned yield, you get a yield, certain things happen there. You kind of get this on-chain bond market type of feel. And if we're being honest, that might gives you more visibility into a potential price more than Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Some would argue. So I'm done there. I probably reached the capacity of my overall intelligence. I think I'm good at dumbing things down. But I think that's a really important way for advisors to think about this rotary phone versus a smartphone, and then what are the next level to try and attach some value to those things if it makes sense for clients.
Definitely. And yeah, that's spot on. And just to expand on that a little more, and this will be the last thing I say, I think of Ethereum similar to that phone or like an app store where people are building on top of it. So like when I go on to what Token Terminal, for example, one of our partners over at 401, when I go on there, I can see there's 900 some applications that are built on top of Ethereum. Okay, so you have Ethereum at the base layer that's settling these transactions. You have people building on top of it. And all these applications serve different purposes, just like when you go into the iPhone and App Store, all the applications are different. They serve different purposes for who's using them. Same thing's happening on Ethereum. Ether, the asset, accrues value from that when that blockchain is used more and more. And that can take us in, we don't have enough time today, but takes us into how Ethereum's supply and demand, mainly supply, gets burned over time based on usage of that network. So if you think, the easiest way to think about it would be if you have the internet and you could own the internet, and every time the internet gets used, you accrue some value to that ownership token, so to speak. That's similar to what Ether is as a decentralized asset that's powering the Ethereum blockchain itself.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to end it there. The goal is to line the street with gold coins, and hopefully everyone picks them up as far as learnings are concerned. I will say to end here, just to plug it, the announcement went out for those that are watching in January. We partnered with the American College. There's 3 modules of CE credit in crypto education that will be coming out. Please go and watch it and enjoy it when it comes out. That was a lot of work for me. I lost my voice. It was a long day of filming modules, so please go look. But our goal is to obviously be incredibly involved in the space, but also work very hard to distill things and make it available. So we're excited about our partnership with the American College, and I believe the modules will be available in January. So definitely watch those when you can, and we'll love any feedback and anything more that you guys want to see as we create more content.
Good job, guys. Ethereum 101 plus a little bit more advanced for advisors that are already operating in the space.